For my ally is the Force, and a powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow. Its energy surrounds us and binds us. Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter.
The Bhagavad Gita, or Song of God, is a comprehensive dissertation on how an ordinary mortal can rise above petty personal preoccupations to become the extraordinary immortal spirit. The Bhagavad Gita occurs as an episode of the Mahabharata. The Mahabharata is an ancient Sanskrit epic poem that tells of a king family, the Kuru family, and the great war that happened between them, and dates to about the 14th century BC. And the Bhagavad Gita specifically happens right before that war on the battlefield. It is a conversation between the Prince Arjuna and the Supreme God, Lord Krishna. Made up of 18 chapters, the Bhagavad Gita is a comprehensive summary of Vedic philosophy. Now, to try to summarize this would be like trying to drink all oceans of the earth. Let's give it a shot. Now, the Bhagavad Gita has 5 main topics. The first one is Ishvara, or talking about God. The second one is Jiva, which is the living entity. The third is Prakruti, or the material nature of the world. The fourth is Kala, which talks about time. And the fifth one is Karma, or activities. Now, to try to summarize this book would be like trying to condense all the oceans into one bottle of water. Let's try that. So I've listed 8 of my favorite topics or themes that occur, that take quite a precedence in the Bhagavad Gita. But a short spoiler, this isn't a book that you can summarize and just ingest and take on the go. This is something that you can really spend a lot of time with, and I'll get to that in my review. My first favorite theme is that to know that you and I, that we are not this body, but that we are a spiritual self. Similar to how we wear clothes and discard them at the end of the day, our body is just a cloth that the spiritual self wears. And at the end of the lifetime, as the body starts to decay, the spiritual self can no longer function it. Think of it like a car that has been totaled. So you get down and get a new car. My second favorite topic is stabilizing your mind by overcoming desires. So this book has a lot of tips and also reasons behind why you should stabilize your mind. My third favorite topic, and this is very similar to Stoic philosophies, because both Stoicism as well as the philosophies in this text are very practical, are very applicable for everyday living. So this is about being temperate in everything that you do, in everything that you consume, and not being extreme. That is to say, not to be extremely not to consume extremely and then having to exercise extremely. To instead find a middle way, a way where you can enjoy both without going to the extreme. Or to put it in other words,
be balanced, as all things should be.
Next is about duty, and it says, the Bhagavad Gita says that you should do your duty without attachment, renouncing doership. This means that when you engage in an activity such as performing, say, an instrument, giving a performance, giving a speech, or even just cleaning your house, doing your work, you should never go in with the motivation of expecting a reward. You shouldn't do something because you're going to be rewarded or you're going to get something. Instead, you should do your work for the sake of doing it, because it is what you should do. If you have to clean your table, you clean your table so that your table is clean. Not because you expect to get paid, because you expect to, try to impress someone with a clean table, or what do I know. It's the general mindset that it is trying to convey is about not expecting not going upfront and expecting and just doing the job for the sake of the reward, just doing a sloppy job, the bare minimum, but instead giving your best effort because you do what you have to do because you have to do it. And next, the Bhagavad Gita also talks a lot about the 3 gunas, and these are like, it's hard to translate them, but gunas would be something like characteristics or moods or vibes. And basically there are 3 gunas. One is tamas, and tamas is sort of just being dull and ignorant and just being passive. So not taking an active response, just being passive, being ignorant to what's going on in the world, to being ignorant about political situations, just slouching down at home and just flipping TV channels. That would be tamas, a state of inertia and laziness. Next we have rajas, which is the opposite, which is again of extreme passion, and passion in any sense. So that could be passion as in extreme anger, extreme happiness, an extreme urge, desires, this kind of opposite of being inert and lazy, of being extremely proactive. And of course, this kind of things like attraction and attachment come with all sorts of downsides like anger, sadness, depression, stress. So rajas is again the other extreme of tamas. And now, as we learned before about temperance, the 3rd guna, and that which is desirable, is the sort of balanced middle way. It's sort of a balance between joy, intelligence, and humor, like how you would be on your ideal day. Relaxed, not too energetic, not too excited, but completely content and blissful. And this comes with a level of equanimity, a level of self-control. So this is kind of a very practical application of being of showing temperance, of being balanced. So these 3 gunas can be found everywhere, and we're not just talking in a sort of state of mind, but also in food, in certain activities, or in all activities. And that is because all of these have an effect on our mind. So if you eat food that is very spicy, very hot, or very sweet, that would be rajasic food. That is food that creates extreme senses, extreme heat, extreme spiciness, extreme sweetness, extreme sourness. Others, like oily foods, for instance, would be tamasic foods. Foods that are oily, fatty, that just kind of make you tired and slump down in the afternoon. And again, here you'll also find that there are certain foods called sattvic foods that will not affect your mind, and will not drag your mind to the extremes, but keep you balanced, keep you centered. I'll cover this topic in a separate video because it's a huge subject to get into, but it has this idea of these 3 gunas have huge implications on which activities we should perform ideally, right? We can't live perfectly, but we should try. It also has a great impact on food and all areas of our life. Next, we have the 4 paths of yoga. And yoga here isn't what we know as the sort of stretching or meditation, but yoga in the sense of a spiritual pathway. And the Bhagavad Gita offers four ways of attaining that same spirituality, of kind of evolving along the spiritual pathway. And it says that because there are different people with different preferences and different abilities, the Bhagavad Gita offers 4 types of yoga, 4 paths. The first one is Bhakti Yoga, which is the yoga of devotion. Karma Yoga, which is the yoga of action. And this also includes selfless service, humbling your ego, serving your community, and also being part of something that is larger than you. Next, we have Jnana Yoga, which is the yoga of knowledge. And finally, we have Raja Yoga, which is the yoga of meditation. So these 4 pathways, devotion, action, knowledge, and meditation, are 4 different ways that will allow you to grow spiritually. And this gives you the flexibility to pick whichever ones you would like. So say an artist who enjoys their craft, who enjoys, say, making cuckoo clocks, really delves into their work and perfects it and sees it as a reflection of themselves, and they work on it and improve it and discover new ways, try to bring in innovation, creativity, inspiration, that can be seen as a form of spiritual growth. Someone else might prefer reading books, watching book summaries on YouTube, or even making videos on book summaries on YouTube as their way of spiritual growth. So this flexibility allows us to have spiritual growth and so still be involved in our daily life, or better put, this allows us to incorporate and implement spiritual growth into our daily actions. Then we have acknowledging the presence of God in you and in everything, and this is very similar to from the autobiography of a yogi, where you see God in everything, see everyone as an equal, and you embrace that each person can teach you something. Each animal, everything can teach you. But you also go into this mindset of helping people, helping yourself, and growing. And finally, we have the topics of karma and dharma. So dharma refers to the sort of values that make something what it is, that which supports it from within. And dharma basically means what you have to do / the right way of living. So it talks about, for instance, what the dharma of a for instance, of a warrior is in this case, and the right duties of a king is to protect his people and to fight injustice. So he encourages him to take up fighting and killing because it is in his dharma. So we all have our own dharma, kind of what we are meant to do, our purpose in life. And this is, of course, personalized. It's not a one size fits all. Every person has to acquire these and these degrees and work in these and these companies and then retire, but it's unique to each person. Then we have the concept of karma, which many people are probably already familiar with, and it basically is very similar to Newton's law, which says that each action has an equal and opposite reaction. So the law of karma says that in the end, everything that happens to us originated in our own thought or action. And it says that every action that you do today will have an equal reaction towards you in the future. So if you help someone, that will come back to you. If you hurt someone, that will come back to you as well. So this gives real ownership, because it says that you yourself are responsible for your situation, not a third person, not your parents, not your school, not your upbringing, not your teacher, not your friend, but you yourself are responsible. And this is really empowering, because no matter in what shitty situation we find ourselves in, we know that A, this was caused by us, and B, we are the only ones that can fix it. Reshape yourself through the power of your will. Never let yourself be degraded by self-will. The will is the only friend of the self, and the will is the only enemy of the self. You have the right to work, but never to the fruit of work. You should never engage in action for the sake of reward, nor should you long for inaction. Perform work in this world, Arjuna, as a man established within himself, without selfish attachments, and alike in success and defeat, for yoga is perfect evenness of mind. It is better to perform one's own duties imperfectly than to master the duties of another. By fulfilling the obligations he is born with, a person never comes to grief. So my review is that this summary did not nearly scratch the surface of what this book offers, and this isn't something that you can read in a sitting or even read in a month or across a year. In fact, many of the bits of nuggets of wisdom, or many of the little stories, anecdotes, and ideas are quite timeless, because they applied thousands of years ago and they still apply today. And I think that the various little nuggets of wisdom will reflect upon you differently as you age. And these concepts are really timeless. It is in the end about the struggle with yourself, the struggle of mastering yourself so that you can enjoy life and live it to the fullest. And because of that, it's not just something that will be relevant 100, 1,000 years from now. It is also one that will reflect upon yourself differently as you age, because as you go through different experiences and become a different person, the same piece of advice will sound different to you a few years from now. So I definitely recommend that you buy a hard copy. This isn't something that you could even enjoy on a Kindle. I really think that it's something that you should enjoy in the real flesh, in a hard copy. You can find it downstairs. If you don't want to spend it, there are online summaries of the individual verses, so you can still go for that option. But I think this book is just so important. It deserves a spot in your bag and in your library. And again, this isn't something that you start and stop reading. I think this is something that you just start reading and keep reading. Thank you for watching my video. As always, if you like this video, do give it a like. If you like this sort of content and want to see more, please consider subscribing and pressing the notification bell so that you get updated when I post new content. As always, have a nice day and be happy.